As you can see by the title of this video, this is part 3 of my flat earth model. Don't worry if you haven't watched part 1 and 2 of this series, because I will be covering it briefly in this video for your convenience. I ask that you keep an open mind and trust that my only intention is to get to the truth and contribute something of value to the growing anti-spinning globe community. That said, let me walk you through the basics of my Novum Mundus model. Novum Mundus, or Novum Regnorum, which means 9 homeworlds or 9 realms. Now, what you are looking at in this picture are 9 different Earth worlds, or as I'm calling them, System Environment Earth realms. I base this model off the belief that we are not on a spinning globe and that the 8 directions lead to more land or worlds. The Xanthos logo is the 8-point star before I conceived this idea, so I don't find these breadcrumbs just a coincidence. You might be a bit confused with me saying 9 different system environments and 8-point star, but let me explain. The 9th, or ground zero, is the home world, or as Norse mythology calls it, Midgard, as in middle, where Earth as we know it is located. Surrounding us are 8 other system environment Earth realms. The unique aspect of this model is that if one were to go exploring and find themselves in another realm, which is possible by the way, then that realm in which you reside becomes the new homeworld. The 9 realms are infinite, and so could human exploration potentially be. Once you understand this, you can realize their lies of needing to depopulate. Of course, all that has ever been written about is the 8 surrounding our current homeworld, or Gaia as the Greeks called her. Matter of fact, I met my husband while playing a sci-fi game called Starfleet Commander that is based off Greek mythology, where players used Gaias to colonize new homeworlds. Again, just a mere coincidence? It is my opinion that some of the mysteries of Flat Earth can be decoded from Norse mythology. And of course, as I've said in another video, there is a connection between Flat Earth, ancient Sumerians, and also of India. And actually, as stated on the wiki, many ancient cultures subscribed to a flat Earth cosmography, including Greece until the Classical period, the Bronze Age and Iron Age civilizations of the Near East until the Hellenistic period, and India until the Gupta period, earlier centuries AD, and China until the 17th century. The idea of a spherical Earth appeared in Greek philosophy by Pythagoras in 6th century BC, although most pre-Socratics retain the flat Earth model. Aristotle provided evidence for the spherical shape of the Earth around 330 BC. Knowledge of the spherical Earth gradually began to spread beyond the Hellenistic world from then on. However, in another video of mine, I mentioned the fact that heliocentrism was on the list of prohibited books called Index Librorum Prohibitorum by the Catholic Church all the way up until 1758. Okay, back to our model. As you can see, there are 8 worlds, or Earth realms, surrounding us in each of the directions: north, northeast, west, southwest, south, southeast, east, and northwest. The images I'm using for each of these worlds is called the Azimuthal Equidistant Project. And just so you know what that is, reading from the wiki, it has the useful properties that all points on the map are at proportionately correct distances from the center point, and that all points on the map are at the correct azimuth from the center point. A useful application for this type of projection is a polar projection, which shows all meridians, lines of longitude, as straight, with distances from the pole represented correctly. The flag of the United Nations contains an example of a polar azimuthal equidistant projection. Speaking of meridian, check out this image I created that shows the many names of the 8-pointed star. Star of Bethlehem, Star of Venus, Star of Inanna, Star of Lakshmi and Kali, Mary of the Sea, and maritime and marine, navigation, and compass rose. Now, those who watch my videos know that I love to use Google Translate. So this time I translated azimuthal from English into Latin, and check out what I found. As seen in the image, azimuthal is translated into Latin as plaga, and plaga is Spanish for plague. Why would this be? I find this very curious that the verb definition of plague means to cause continual trouble. Is this the demonization of flat earth embedded right in the name of this map? Or does it have something to do with the United Nations, or both? Again, these azimuthal maps are useful because, as I read from the wiki, they are based off the center point, or more commonly, the pole star, North Star, Polaris, or as we like to call it, the guiding star. This is an important aspect of our model and is what connects our world to the other 8 system environments. In the Hindu Puranas, it became personified under the name Dhruva, meaning immovable, fixed. In the later medieval period, it became associated with the Marian title of Stella Maris, Star of the Sea, as in Mary of the Sea. An older English name, attested since the 14th century, is Lodestar, or Guiding Star, which is cognate with Old Norse or Middle High German. Not only is it immovable, fixed, and used for navigation, Polaris stands motionless in the sky, and all the stars appear to rotate around it. Therefore, it also makes an excellent fixed point from which to draw measurements for celestial navigation and for astrometry, which has not been used to the benefit of the many or for our collective freedom, shall I say. Which brings me to the compass rose, magnetic north, and the drawing compass. It is my theory that the magnetic north found in the compass is a trick to keep you going in circles within the boundaries of the system environment we live called Earth. Basically, they found an immovable point and based calculations off that point, and it works to their benefit to make us believe there is nothing outside those boundaries. Putting us on a spinning globe is a perfect distraction.
Just keep spinning, just keep spinning. Just keep spinning, just keep spinning.
Calculate the number of the beast.
It looks like they already did that for us, my pretty.
The Earth is tilted 66.6 degrees with a curvature of 66.6 feet at 10 miles, orbiting the sun at 666,000 miles per hour. The power of flat Earth compels you. The power of flat Earth compels you. The power of flat Earth compels you.
Globe Earth is a lie.
Right, pal.
Alright, now that we've had a little fun, I want to go back to talking about the guiding star for a moment, and then I'll move on to talking about the Nephilim giants from the Bible, Norse mythology, and how I believe it all relates to the flat earth model I'm presenting. But first, have you ever heard of the world tree? The world tree has been present in several ancient religions, such as Indo-European, Siberian, and Native Americans. But the tree that has the most written about it, other than South Asian religions, is the tree from Norse mythology, which we will discuss shortly. Now keep in mind that the Norse mythology models have been hijacked by people who are globe earth minded. If you can, try to envision these images as though they were laid out on a flattened map like the azimuthal. While studying about the world tree, I immediately thought how this concept reminded me of Polaris. This was confirmed when reading about Yggdrasil, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's the world tree of Norse mythology. It reads, Hilda Ellis Davidson comments that the existence of 9 worlds around Yggdrasil is mentioned more than once in Old Norse sources, but the identity of the worlds is never stated outright, though it can be deduced from various sources. Davidson comments that no doubt the identity of the 9 varied from time to time as the emphasis changed or new imagery arrived. Davidson says that it is unclear where the 9 worlds are located in relation to the tree. They could either exist one above the other or perhaps be grouped around the tree, as in my model presents. Davidson opines that those who have tried to produce a convincing diagram of the Scandinavian cosmos from what we are told in the sources have only added to the confusion. Davidson notes parallels between Yggdrasil and shamanic lore in northern Eurasia. The conception of the tree rising through a number of worlds is found in northern Eurasia and forms part of the shamanic lore shared by many peoples of this region. This seems to be a very ancient conception, perhaps based on the pole star. And just a quick tidbit of information, I found it interesting in Siberian mythology that the world tree is also the symbol of Mother Earth, who is said to give the Samoyed shaman his drum and also help him travel from one world to another. Speaking of the giantesses that personify the 9 worlds, I find it interesting and suspicious the similarities between the biblical term Nephilim, whom were also known as giants, and Norse mythology's Niflheim. It is my belief that the Bible consists of remnants of a host of other religions and ancient spiritualities accumulated over time from colonizing and conquering and pieced together to create a plagiarized religion for a one-world order. However, we can definitely use it for comparison and for cracking codes. The words Nephilim and Niflheim sound too similar to be a coincidence. Would it surprise you if I said that Niflheim is known as the land of ice and snow, or mist? Hence why I used Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song as the intro to this video. Yes, there is a method to my madness. In this song, it is speaking of Norse mythology and the Vikings. But what we are paying attention to is the lyrics. We come from the land of ice and snow, and will drive our ships to new lands. So on that note, let's go back and take a look at my model. As you see here, I have edited in the Niflheim for you to see for yourself the layout of this model. It all becomes very clear once you know more about Niflheim versus the Bible's Nephilim. Were there really giants? It's quite possible, not discounting that, but what I know for certain is that Nephilim is not a human or giant, but a place. I think it's also worth mentioning that the goddess Hel, and yes, there is a goddess named Hel, who was given authority over the frozen realm, Niflheim. Keep in mind that Niflheim is supposed to be the same as Helheimer, the place of the dishonorable dead. Either way, a place that is frozen is certainly hell on earth to me, no convincing needed. Now, it took me a while to grip my mind around this ice ring that a lot of anti-globe earthers claim is surrounding us, so I wanted to brainstorm a bit to see how this could even be possible. Of course, I didn't have to look far because not only does the azimuthal map show an ice ring around us, but so does Norse mythology. Further evidence to support this ring can be found when researching, again, Niflheim. Niflheim is said to be a world of darkness. As you can see in this model, the large area of ice and snow we are calling Niflheim does not get much sun, obviously, so this makes complete sense. But what about this ring of ice? Are people trying to create competition for the ring of fire? Joke. Seriously, reading further, it states that Niflheim is of primordial ice and cold, with frozen rivers, and that Odin sent Hel, the goddess, down into the realm of mist and darkness, where she rules a kingdom encircled by a high wall.
The cold never bothered me anyway.
Sorry, I just couldn't resist doing that. Okay, back to my model. Let's recap. The red lines are areas which are passable due to the fact that the rotation of the sun from one world comes closer to the rotation of a sun from another world, thus creating a thinner area of Arctic region. Once you understand this, it is easy to understand the ring of ice and that the severity of ice and snow varies depending on your direction. The 8-point star represents Polaris. Now, I know it's hard to fathom 9 worlds, but they aren't different from ours. True, there might be, and assuredly are, different civilizations and people, and who knows, maybe they use more than 10% of their brain. But their ecosystem works the exact same as Earth as we know it. Real quick, let's look at a recreation of Norse mythology's 9 worlds. Remember, these are recreated by globe earthers who believe these other 8 worlds are above, below, and at different heights and depths to Earth's location. However, I obviously believe this model should be presented as flat Earth, so to speak. As you can see in this picture, they are using a globe Earth model, clearly, but all it takes is a couple slight changes to look like this model. Before I end this video, I want to talk briefly about Admiral Byrd, so I invited my husband Ian in on the conversation.
Hi. So Admiral Byrd, after World War II, led 2 expeditions of Antarctica. The first was in 1947-48 called Operation High Jump. This was notable for the rescue of a crew of a crashed aircraft and the discovery of an Antarctica oasis that is free of snow. A documentary film was made of this called The Secret Land, which you might be able to find online. The second exploration was in 1955-56 called Operation Deep Freeze. Now, he led a team of 13 airmen on a flight from Little America across the South Pole and beyond it for a further 2,300 miles, finding at the end of that a landmass larger than North America. Now, he only stayed in Antarctica for a week because he rushed back to Washington to report what he found, because the landmass was unoccupied and full of resources. And ever since then, the US government have made Little America the permanent Antarctica base.
Okay, and also we noticed that there was his air crash, the Fokker aircraft, was found on what is called the Rockefeller Mountain in Antarctica. So,
Yeah, which is very interesting that such a person would have mountain range.
yeah, imagine that. Well, they own everything, don't they?
Absolutely.
All right, Earth Keepers, thanks for watching, and remember, this is just my theory, and I'm sure I forgot some things, but not all my beliefs are set in stone. I'm open to ideas and constructive criticism. But one thing we know for sure, the Earth is not a spinning globe. Goners be gone!